in the Philippines. Back in the Philippines, actually we joined the community at the same time. That was a while back, and until now we belong to the same. We call it BFF household group. Our original
Okay
household,
na.
we're still together. So that's Brother Deng and his family. Anyway, sorry, he's married for 28 years and has only one child. He has been in the community for 20 years and currently serving as our work for life coordinator as well as LBS facilitator. So please welcome Brother Deng Papa.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Joseph. Let me share my screen. Okay. So for tonight, I will be giving a talk on living a culture of life, talk number 4. I'd like you to focus for now the picture. I got this from the internet, but it suits our the pro-life message. Every life cherished, chosen, and sent. Every life meaning from what is the motto or the objective of almost every pro-life organization. That is the protection of the sanctity and dignity of human life from conception to natural death. Isn't it, brothers and sisters? So, okay, so let me go to the next slide. I don't have much pictures like Brother Art, but bear with me. Oops, what happened? Okay, there you go. So the second item in the MFC covenant is this. I dedicate myself to the task of building a strong family for Christ. So Brother Art tackled the first item within that, invest myself in time and effort for home and family. And I will tackle live out and defend the culture of life. They are very much intertwined, these two objectives. Because as Brother Art mentioned, St. John Paul II said the history of the world is going the way of the family, meaning whatever happens to the family determines the history of the world. That's how important the family is. And the culture of life, how much importance we give to the culture of life determines what happens to the family. And so we are called to renew the family and to defend life. What is the situation in the world today? The culture of death is rampant throughout the world. There is divorce, there is euthanasia, or what they call medical assistance in dying. Fancy words for euthanasia. Abortion, total population control, and homosexual unions. That is the culture of death. And what is the cause of the culture of death? Having no sense of God or living as if God does not exist. Secularism has brought about modern man's confusion and immorality. And in Romans, in the letter of St. Paul to the Romans, chapter 1, verse 28, and since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God handed them over to their undiscerning mind to do what is improper. This, my brothers and sisters, is modernity, rebelling against the authority of God. Uh, Modernity thinks that a man does not need God, does not need the authority of God in order for it to thrive and to prosper, in order for it to attain what it is meant to be. That is the modernity, the modernity rebelling against the authority of God. That is why, that is why, if you look back at the situation of the world today, we have these things: divorce, euthanasia, abortion, total population control, homosexual unions, which are all against God's plans for us, right? You agree? And the culture of death is marked by the isms, hedonism, seeking pleasure as the highest goal, individualism, self-centeredness, me, myself, and I. I am the center of this universe, right? Materialism, valuing material goods more than people. That's self-explanatory. Consumerism, obsessively accumulating more and more goods. And utilitarianism, valuing people for their usefulness. So for utilitarianism, the implication is if people have no more value or are not useful anymore, then they don't have value. Then we get rid of them, right? That is what you can see is are the things that some people treasure. And that is why the verse in Matthew chapter 6, verse 21 describes it very accurately. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So if you treasure these things, that is where your heart are going to be, is going to be, right? If you value pleasure more than anything else, if you value yourself more than anything else, if you value goods more than people, if you value accumulating more and more goods more than what we Christians are supposed to value, and if you just value people for their usefulness, then you will be following this five five mindsets, if I may say so. But we Christians are not valuing these things. What is at the top of our values is to love God and to love our neighbors. From this, the culture of death manifests itself in casual sexual relationships, marital infidelities, because of pleasure, I would say, separation and divorce, self-centeredness, homosexual acts and union, contraception and abortion, reproductive technology, sterilization of the poor, euthanasia, etc., which are all against the plan of God, against the will of God. Now you might say, what is the basis of what I'm saying? This is not my opinion. These are the teachings of the Catholic Church, right? We have to look at the very beginning and draw basic realities according to the plan of God for the life of the world. We see this in the book of Genesis. Brothers and sisters, please read with me silently. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, the Lord God formed man out of the clay of the ground and blew into his nostrils the breath of life. And so man became a living being. From here we can conclude it is God who is the creator, the author of life. And in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, God created man in his image. In the divine image, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Man is made in the very image of God. As such, man is endowed with profound dignity. And David was awed in Psalm chapter 8, verse 6. Yet you have made them little less than a god, crowned them with glory and honor. These verses reminds me of the time when I was in Alberta. I was looking at the majestic Rocky Mountains, right? And I was awed by the majestic mountains. But then God reminded me, but I made you in my very image. So I then realized that man himself is the crowning glory of God's creation. There are many wonderful things that God created, but man is the crowning glory of his creation because of that truth. Man is made in the very image of God. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 28a, God blessed them, saying, Be fertile, be fertile and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. God intends man to procreate and to populate the whole earth. And Genesis chapter 1, verse 28b, have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and all the living things that move on the earth. God gave authority and rule over the whole world to man. We are stewards. We were made stewards of God's creation. The Lord God took the man and settled him in the Garden of Eden to cultivate and care for it. And in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, see, I give you every seed-bearing plant all over the earth, and every tree that has seed-bearing fruit on it to be your food. God provides the food that man needs in order to survive. So God provides for everything that we need. So based on those truths that God revealed to us in the book of Genesis, what are the implications? What principles of life can we draw? Since God is the creator, only He has the right to take away the life that He has created. Meaning, there is no place for abortion, where women claim they own their bodies and thus the child within their womb. I remember when I was part of the March for Life, one lady in Ottawa was trying to argue that this is my body, pointing to her body. This is my body. And it is impossible to have an objective conversation in that scenario because it is almost confrontational. So, but if you try to think of it, yes, it is the woman's body, but it's not the only body involved, right? Because there's another living body inside the woman's body. and, and there is no place for euthanasia or assisted suicide. Another truth, since we are created in the image of God, there is an innate dignity that reflects the glory of the Creator. As such, no one has the right to demean or denigrate that life or image, meaning there is no place for degrading sexual practices, for pornography, for sex trafficking, for the culture of drugs, for substance abuse, for torture and acts of violence like hazing. And that is true because we are the crowning glory of God's creation. We have made a little less than God. That's why we have to give so much importance to ourselves and to God's will. And since God created only male and female, then there is no third sex. There is no LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. Aside from male and female, there is no diversity of sexuality and gender identity based cultures. And the biology of our bodies shows that explicitly. There is only a male and a female. Okay? That is why there is no place for same-sex unions, much less same-sex marriage. Since God created a suitable partner for man, with whom he becomes one body, and with whom he brings children into the world, we are to look to marriage that is permanent, that reflects both the unitive and procreative intent of the Creator. And the conclusion is there is no place for divorce because God intends marriage to be permanent. Conclusion number 5. Since God commanded man to be fertile and multiply, we are to obey and procreate. We are to have as many children as we can reasonably and responsibly care for. That's the key words, reasonably and responsibly care for. We should not look for subtracting from the peoples of the world, but rather to add, nay, not to add, but to multiply. There is no place for population control, as we certainly have not filled the earth. There is no place for contraception or sterilization. And definitely there is no place for reproductive health, where its universal understanding and practice include abortion, apart from contraception and sterilization. You will see later how we can be we can use natural family planning in spacing of our children. Since God has given rule over the world to man as stewards, we are to care for our world and for the environment. We are to help ensure that life according to God's intent truly happens. There is no place for corruption, pollution, environmental degradation, wanton destruction of forests, irresponsible mining, overfishing, or filling outer space with junk. And since God provided everything that man needed in order to have a satisfying and full life, we are to look to abundance and prosperity. There is no place for poverty or subhuman living or just or unjust deportation of aliens. Yes, poverty exists, but the resources of the world is more than enough to solve this poverty and subhuman living conditions that we can see today. And so in Genesis, when God finished creating, he looked at everything he had made and he found it very good. What God created is good, and the principles he established for his creation are what will sustain such goodness. So God created a wonderful world, and this creation he entrusted to all of us, men and women, right? Unfortunately, we have tampered with God's design. Man has overturned the very wisdom of God. Hence, we are now reaping the bitter fruit of such folly. That is when we rebel against the wisdom and the authority of God. Okay, that those are very nice words, right? But here is the application. Now that we know what the culture of life means, how do we live the culture of life in MFC? Definitely, we have to reject the culture of death, right? We in I'm sorry. Oop, oop, okay. We in MFC are pro-life. Um, for us who are young married couple, we can what we can do is look forward to building families. Be generous in bringing new life into the world and practice responsible parenthood and natural family planning. In exercising responsible parenthood, be responsible for the care of children you beget. As such, you can space births, but make use only of natural methods. But also, periodically check on your intentions in spacing births. Ensure that the natural method has not become a form of contraception. So we are being warned that even natural method can be misused, right? You should check on your intentions. And as a parent or head of the family, parents are the primary educators of their children, including age-appropriate sex education, given in the context of love, marriage, and family. So we should not let this responsibility we should not let this responsibility be on the shoulders of the school. Yes, they may be able to help, but the primary responsibility is on the parents for the education of their children regarding these matters. And of course, we have to care for our children. For the young children, we have to provide as a parent, we have to provide a balanced home environment for our children where we can truly build up their identity and their values at the crucial and formative stage in the life of the kids. Parents and family play a vital role in their formation and development. You know, and one of the ways we can do that is we should bring them into KFL, Kids for Life. For our children who are youth and single professionals, as parents, we know that the youth and singles are very much exposed to pornography and distorted values towards sex in the media, including the internet. So we are being forewarned of this reality. And according to the teaching, this easily leads to masturbation or casual sex. We should bring them into youth for family and life and singles for family and life with emphasis on our Live Pure movement. And this is very true. I have seen countless examples of youth, not necessarily in our community, but other youths and singles who are rebelling against the teachings of the Catholic Church, uh, especially about the teaching on sex. So, as a parent, we have to explain objectively and lovingly to our children who are part of this of the youth and the singles why the teaching of the Catholic Church is such when it comes to sex. And as an MFC member, we have to educate ourselves about pro-life causes and concerns. We have to one of the document that uh, that I find to be very rich in wisdom about the Gospel of Life is the encyclical by Saint John Paul II, Evangelium Vitae. Translated in English, it's the Gospel of Life. It's full of wisdom from Saint John Paul II about uh, about life and the teaching of the Catholic Church. I encourage you to read it. It's available in the Vatican website. Just search for Evangelium Vitae um, from the Vatican. It's free. It's a PDF document. Uh, and how do we educate ourselves? Attend community teachings. We just had our pro-life conference with 3 fantastic speakers. Uh, I hope you were able to attend that conference because it gave a lot of insights into current issues and what's going on in Canada, especially, and in the whole world. And it also teaches techniques and tips on how to evangelize on this very important pro-life subject. And we should seek formation on responsible parenthood and natural family planning. And we should grow in knowledge of our Catholic faith and what official Catholic teaching says about the issues that we are facing. So, brothers and sisters, when some people give us a teaching that we feel uh, is not according to the Catholic teaching, we should verify it. There are a lot of resources to verify it, uh, especially the Catechism of the Catholic Church, right? And your leaders themselves, right? Your household leader, your unit leaders, myself, and our chapter head. We can go all the way to our servant general if need be. Um, if you have something to discuss or you have questions, you have doubts, uh, clarify it. Uh, do not keep it to yourself, because if you don't clarify it, it will remain as doubt, right? You have to be convinced of the wisdom behind the teaching of the Catholic Church regarding this matter. And so every FNC member must be a pro-life advocate. We have to care for our health and well-being, not only of the body, but also of the mind and our soul. Because the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. We have to participate in community pro-life activities. Before the pandemic, we have several of these. We have the March for Life, the Life Chain, um, and of course the pro-life conferences that we have. We have to have a yearning or hunger to to learn more about this. Consider, and we should also consider serving in the community pro-life ministry. The community's pro-life servant leader is um, Bobby, Brother Bobby Ribo in Canada. Uh, and we should also spread the message of pro-life as widely as possible within one circles. So this is part of our evangelization on the pro-life issues. And we should speak out against the culture of death as events unfold in society. So this is part of being bold, but at the same time, humble and loving. We should be bold, courageous, but we should also be humble and loving. When we talk about these issues, uh, it doesn't help us when we become confrontational, right? Even Jesus, when he speak of the truth, he speak it with love and humility, but he also speak it boldly and courageously. If we start becoming confrontational, the other person we are speaking to can sense that we just want to win the argument. He doesn't sense our concern for him. We have to establish a common ground with the other person, empathize with his concern, and slowly uh, present to him the truth in a way that he will understand and he will sense our concern for his issues, his or her issues. And we should be open to serving the parish pro-life ministry if there is one. And this is what I was talking about, the Evangelium Vitae by St. John Paul II. This is the website. If you have a camera, just take a picture so you can go, or you can just Google it, Evangelium Vitae in Vatican, and it will give you, sorry, it will give you this link. Okay. Before we go to the conclusion, I'm not sure if everybody is aware we have a Facebook group called Ontario West Live Life. That is our Facebook group um, for Mississauga East, Mississauga West, and Hamilton. It is a treasure trove of links and events and issues. Oh, and before we go to the conclusion, I'd like to show you some websites This is the Campaign Life Coalition. As part of your quest to learn more about existing issues, go to this website. You will learn about existing issues. And there are also petitions for you to write letters to representatives, federal and provincial, when a bill is being raised that is against our pro-life teaching. And another website is the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition. So these are useful sites to go to. Um, but again, we have that Facebook group. If you are not yet a member, ask your servant uh, leader to um, to invite you to that Facebook group, Ontario West Live Life. I also placed the links in that Facebook group. In conclusion, the fight for the culture of life is the defining battle in this third millennium. The enemy has focused his vast resources to destroy life. Together with destroying the family and the church. And God raised MFC as his army in this war. And as a last verse, I'd like to share John chapter 10, verse 10. What did Jesus say? I came so that they might have life and have it more abundantly. Brothers and sisters, we should not be afraid because, yes, the enemy is strong, but we have Jesus with us all the time. He is in front of us so that we can follow him. He is beside us so that he is beside us because he was incarnated. He became man and he knows exactly what we are going through as human beings. And he is behind us because he is ready to support us to support our backs when we feel threatened and keep us moving forward. Remember this picture. Every life cherished, chosen, and sent. From the unborn to the sick to the people who are at the end of their time, of their life. They are all cherished, chosen, and sent. And with that, may God be praised. Oops, sorry. Uh, Hold on. I forgot that there is that discussion starter. There you go. Discussion starter. Share about your understanding of what it means to be pro-life. How do you intend to be involved in our pro-life ministry? So breakout group?